looks like we're live. Hi, everyone. We're just going to
Yes.
pause a few moments here and wait for everyone to join. Thank you for joining us right on time. We appreciate it, and we'll be live soon. Uh, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. Sorry, we're just thumbing through the slides here. So Virendra and Rakesh, I'm not sure if you guys are on audio, but we should probably just leave it on the first slide here. And if Rakesh, if you're going through this, we don't have your audio.
Hello everyone. Sorry for the little delay. We have some technical glitches. Uh, Thank you for the patience. We'll connect in 2 minutes. And allow. Yeah, sometimes that is.
Okay. Sorry about that. We had some technical glitches. Marcus, am I audible?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear now, Rakesh. Thanks. We
Right,
got a little bit of that halo behind your head that makes you look angelic, but I think we're good to go.
right. Okay. Just a second. Just adjust myself. Okay, great. Thanks, Vero. Thanks. I'm so sorry that we had some technical glitches. Sorry to keep you waiting, and thank you for your patience. Here's a quick outline about what we're going to cover. Right, we will be covering, as we spoke earlier, we will be covering the key findings from the security research team. We'll be talking about the vulnerabilities that we have analyzed, the distribution based on various algorithms, CVSS V3, V4 algorithm, the exploitability score, the impact score, the affected vendors, operating system, applications, hardware, critical vulnerabilities, 0 days, and misconfiguration. So it's a whole lot of, it's a big package that we have for you, and we hope you enjoy this webinar as much we do. Okay, let's move on. Sorry. Okay, let's break down this key findings from the security research team into 10 critical areas that has shaped the vulnerability landscape. Now, these numbers tell a definite story about how the vulnerability landscape has evolved over the past year. Virendra, can you help us start off with this?
Yeah. Uh, Hello everyone. So, yeah, there were total 40K vulnerabilities discovered in total throughout the year, whereas 31K vulnerabilities were discovered in last year, which is 30% rise in the total number of vulnerabilities compared to last year. So this difference and rise in vulnerabilities reflect the growing complexity of IT environments and relentless pace at which vulnerabilities are discovered. It's a stark reminder that organizations need a scalable, automated approach to manage these high number of vulnerabilities detection. So
Okay.
what's alarming is that out of these 40,000 vulnerabilities, 19,000 vulnerabilities are marked as critical or high, which is nearly 47% of the total number of vulnerabilities discovered. So,
Correct. All right. So Virendra, it's not about the sheer volume that we're talking here. It's a criticality that makes the landscape more dangerous. Marcus, can you walk us through what we found about this actively exploitable vulnerabilities? Can you let us know your thoughts on that? Marcus, you're on mute. We can't hear you. So sorry.
Thanks for catching that, Rakesh. The
Yeah.
technical difficulties continue today. Must be one of those days. But yeah, sure. Thanks for that. So I think out of all the vulnerabilities, 129 were actively exploited in the wild. And these are the vulnerabilities that attackers have already weaponized to either breach systems or steal data. And the troubling trend here is that many of these exploits occurred within a short amount of time, days or weeks, of these vulnerabilities being disclosed, um, and leaving those organizations really a small window to respond in 2024, total number of day zero were 31 day zero vulnerabilities reported. And this might seem small compared to the thousands of vulnerabilities that were disclosed overall and that we're talking about here in the report. But the impact of these 0 days is disproportionately high. These 23 vulnerabilities of these were discovered. They had publicly available exploits. That
So,
means that you, me, the 14-year-old kid down the street can go get
mm,
that
that's
publicly
dangerous.
available exploit, right? And this means that the detailed exploit code for these vulnerabilities, it's out there. It's out in public domain, and it's often shared all over the place in forums and GitHub locations like that. Probably in a lot of discords as well. And this makes it really easy for those attackers, even those with limited technical skills, to leverage those exploits and attack the vulnerable systems.
That's very concerning. Virendra, can you walk us through the the malware and the browser vulnerabilities that we see here?
Yeah, sure. Our security researchers identified 120 vulnerabilities that were actively exploited by malware, leading to what we call it as high fidelity attacks. These vulnerabilities were directly leveraged by sophisticated malwares and threat actors to infiltrate systems and steal data or disrupt operations.
Marcus,
Yeah.
your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this is dangerous, right? It shows how these attackers are becoming increasingly adept at integrating those vulnerabilities into their campaigns for malware. And it highlights the critical need for the organizations not only just to patch the vulnerabilities right away, but also to maintain that robust vulnerability management platform to mitigate these malware attack risks.
That's true, Marcus. We have also seen a staggering 429 vulnerabilities were discovered in web browsers. Majorly, these vulnerabilities belongs to Google Chrome, uh, making them one of the most software categories attacked.
Yeah, I'm curious. Can you tell me more about that, Virendra? Because I see patches for Chrome all the time.
Yeah, sure. So attackers often target web browsers due to their connection to the external content. Nowadays, a majority of the applications are SaaS-based applications. So approximately 84% of the our work is conducted through a browsers. So vulnerabilities in browsers lead to serious exploit such as drive-by downloads and exploit kits, where simply just by visiting a malicious link can result into a system infection. Additionally, attacker can exploit these vulnerabilities for credential theft, stealing sensitive login data, and compromising accounts.
Man, that is scary. So if I understand this, what you're saying is it's a critical need for organizations to just continuously scan for the vulnerabilities and not adapt the years past approach of whack-a-mole or periodic scanning, monthly, quarterly, any of those approaches. So I think that's what I'm hearing you say. Is that correct?
So I think
Yes.
the point well said, Marcus, is that we need continuous scanning. Periodic or quarterly scanning is not going to work if we want to detect all these, right? Right. Let's move on.
Agree.
Now, one of the highlights of the SecPod security intelligence coverage is the staggering, more than 15,000 CVEs that we covered. This number reflects the breadth and depth of our commitment to provide real, actionable intelligence. It's a true commitment. Virendra, can you share what this figure actually means in terms of the challenge it addresses?
Absolutely, Rakesh. Our team does not just track over 15,000 CVs. We focus on making sure that no critical vulnerabilities goes unnoticed. The truth is, many organizations find it hard to keep up with the constant flow of new vulnerabilities each year. By covering each such a vulnerability, such a wide range, we help teams address both high severity vulnerabilities, threats, and those that may seem less critical at first, but could still lead to a serious security issues. Marcus, could you say this extensive coverage has been critical differentiator for our customers?
Yeah, absolutely, Virendra. So, what's unique about our coverage isn't just the quantity, but also the quality of those insights. So, for over these 15,000 CVEs, we don't just stop at listing them, but we're talking about helping companies with our platform, with SanerNow, to prioritize them based on the exploitability, severity, the business impact, all of the things that go into calculating it beyond just a CVE number. And this helps those organizations focus their remediation efforts where it's going to count the most, not just based off of a score and then trying to go out and figure out it in the environment. Really, a true risk-based prioritization approach.
That's the game changer, Marcus. With this level of coverage and scope, organizations no longer have to need to do a second guess whether they are missing out on critical, vulnerabilities. Another impressive stat, what we cover is the 654 remote checks. These checks enable organizations to assess their systems for vulnerabilities without deploying agents. Now, Virendra, can you explain this further? That sounds about remote checks.
Of course, Rakesh. Remote checks are incredibly valuable because they offer lightweight, non-intrusive way to scan device across the network. Imagine an IT ecosystem with thousands of devices. Deploying agent on each of them is resource intensive. With remote checks, security teams can still achieve broad range coverage, saving time and resources. These checks also help us understand how attackers might spot and exploit these vulnerabilities. Marcus, what's your take on how these resonate with customers facing large distributed environments?
Yeah, thanks. So I think for customers with those complex and geographically dispersed environments, these remote checks are their main lifeline, right? It's going to ensure those critical devices, especially any of those that are harder to reach, either physically or because they're temporarily on offline, they come online and offline. Those are included in the vulnerability assessment. It represents the extensive library of checks tailored to actual real world threats.
Right. Now, another critical aspect is the network device vulnerabilities that we discovered on 3654. Network devices are often overlooked because in vulnerability management because they aren't visible as endpoints of service, but they are just as critical. So, Virendra, can you help us understand by elaborating on why addressing vulnerabilities in network devices is so important?
Sure, Rakesh. Network devices such as firewalls, routers, switches, and various security systems are foundation of organization infrastructure. If compromised, attacker can move freely across the network or intercept sensitive data. By mapping vulnerabilities to these devices, we provide security teams with the insights indeed to reinforce both their network perimeter and internal defenses. Marcus, what do you think makes this coverage so impactful for our organizations?
Yeah, Virendra. I think one thing that stands out is the growing complexity of today's networks. So many of these organizations are using multi vendor environments with devices that may or may not have consistent patching mechanisms in place. And our ability to pinpoint these 600 plus 654 vulnerabilities, and we're adding to that all the time, empowers these teams to prioritize and remediate based on risk. Plus, this level of specificity helps IT and security teams collaborate a lot more effectively than just doing it independently.
That's well said, Marcus. Okay, now one of the most critical metrics in our coverage is zero-day vulnerabilities, which we have covered 31. So zero-day CVEs that is coming to 31. Now, 0 days, as we know, represent the highest level of risk because there is no prior warning, no available patch, and no immediate remediation strategy. We don't know how would you describe the importance of addressing 0 days in a proactive manner?
Yeah, the 0 days are vulnerabilities attacker exploit before word knows about them, and sometime it's just word gets know on the
Okay.
same day.
Okay.
These are blind spots that can lead to devastating breaches. And we cover 31 zero-day CVs, means we are equipping organization with the intelligence to stay ahead of attackers. Marcus, what's your take on this impact on broader threat landscape?
Yeah, I think the ability to cover zero-day vulnerabilities reflects the agility and depth of our intelligence, right? Think about it. The 0 days often target critical infrastructure or those high-value systems. And our coverage not only is going to alert organizations to these threats, but help them assess the exposure on their assets in real time. This is especially crucial for industries like healthcare, finance, manufacturing, not only where the stakes are incredibly high, but where they are most often uh, targeted customers. That's where these different APT and attacker groups are going to go after.
That's true, Marcus. Talking about misconfigurations, we saw around 2048, right? Approximately 2408, right? Since Virendra, since these vulnerabilities arising from incorrect or insecure sectors, how dangerous are they?
Yeah, misconceptions are often overlooked during security assessment. Misconfigurations are actually low-hanging fruits, which threat actors always look for because it's easy for them to exploit. They can be prevented through an integrated vulnerability management platform, which can help in scanning, detecting, normalizing, and remediating these configurations.
That's something that we need to really take care of, right? Right. Okay. Now let's talk about the common remediation enumeration coverage, right? Which we are having here. We have mapped approximately close to 2955 standardized remediation actions this year. Is quite significant, right, Virendra? What's your views on that?
Indeed. Indeed. For those in our audience who might not be familiar, CRE is nothing as a common remediation enumeration, is essentially our standard playbook of fixes. Each remediation action is carefully mapped to a specific vulnerabilities and misconfigurations.
Marcus?
Yeah, thank you. And to put this in perspective, right, when we identify a vulnerability or misconfiguration, either of which is an attack vector, right? So that's important to keep in mind. It's not just a vulnerability. Having over these 2,955 mapped remediation actions means we're not just saying, hey, you have a problem, but rather, here's a problem and here's exactly how to fix it. And you can see this information at our SCAP repo website as well. It's not just information we're talking about here, but that you can take a look at it at scaprepo.com.
Right. For example, if we detect a misconfigured firewall, the corresponding CRE would provide a step-by-step instructions for correcting those specific configurations according to security best practices provided by vendor or security authorities.
Right. And what makes this particularly valuable is that these remediation actions are standardized. Whether you're a sysadmin or a security analyst, anywhere in the world, you're getting the same tested, verified fix for each issue. So it's the same tested, verified fix for each issue, irrespective of whichever part of the world you are.
Yeah, exactly. And these over 2,900, 2,955 remediation actions cover everything from simple misconfiguration changes to complex vulnerability patches across different platforms and applications. So that's key. It's not just Windows, it's not just Linux, it's not just Mac, it's across all the different platforms and applications.
That's true, Marcus. Now, moving on to a patch coverage, we have mapped and verified around 2,000, more than 2,000 patches, that is 2440 patches across various systems and applications. Virendra, what's your view on this, on patching, no, on our patch
That,
coverage?
that's a crucial data. These 2000, approximately 2500 patches represents our ability to not just identify vulnerabilities but also fixing them, because it's very critical that just identifying vulnerabilities won't solve the problem. It is gets solved after applying the patches. So each patch has been tested, validated to ensure it effectively addresses specific security issues.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think what's important to highlight here is that these aren't just operating system patches. We're looking at patches for network devices, applications, firmware, and really the entire technology stack that our clients use.
Yeah, just one more thing here, Marcus, is that we are right now not providing patches for network devices. We are right now doing the assessments. Viro, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. Uh,
Correct.
we,
Assessment only. I misspoke.
we
You're
are
correct.
just doing the
Ye-
assessment only, and we'll soon
Yes.
be providing the patches for that. And right, Marcus? Yeah, and to put this number into context, right, each of these 2,440 patches have gone through rigorous testing, right, to ensure that it doesn't break existing systems when applied. So this is a tested patch that we are offering. Virendra?
Yes, that's one of the very critical aspect that we test each and every patches so that it will not break the systems. And what I find particularly valuable is how we integrated this into our automated patch management system. When a vulnerability is detected, we can immediately identify those vulnerabilities, and also we can check either patches are available, and also we can apply those patches. This if these patches exist within the collection of 2440 patches.
That's true.
And that rapid remediation capability is critical in today's threat landscape. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. Having these patches pre validated means that we can respond to emerging threats a lot faster.
That's very true. The speed at which you are able to fix these vulnerabilities matter a lot, and and that determines your ability to respond. Right. Now let's look at our third-party application patch coverage. We have cataloged close to 1292. That is 1292. Patches specifically for third-party applications, which is a significant portion of our total patch coverage. Virendra, you want to talk on this?
This is particularly important because third-party applications are often overlooked in security strategies. We are talking about everything from PDF readers and web browsers to a specialized business applications.
That's true. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is that these 1,292 patches address some of the most commonly exploited vulnerabilities. Third party applications are frequent targets because organizations often primarily only focus on those OS patches and those operating system patches.
That's a very valid point, Marcus. In fact, we are seeing an increasing number of attacks targeting these third-party apps applications precisely because they are often not patched as promptly as the operating systems. That's a very critical thing.
And that's why having 1292 verified patches ready to deploy is so valuable.
Correct. Correct. That's true.
It covers the most popular application that business uses daily, from productivity suites to development tools.
That's very important. Then.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And remember that each of these almost 1,300, we keep mentioning the number 1,292 patches, has been tested for compatibility across these different system configurations to ensure a safe and reliable deployment.
That's true, Marcus. Now, and one more fact is that we also have addressed around 1,148 misconfiguration patches. Now, this number is particularly significant when viewed alongside our total number of misconfigurations that is identified. That is close to 2,408, that is 2,408, right, Virendra?
Yes, that's right, Rakesh. These are 1148 patches are specific fixes we have developed to address system setting that deviate from established security standards. When we look at our overall patch coverage, we are handling 2440 total patches with 1292 specifically for third-party applications.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, these misconfiguration patches are, we call them patches, or misconfiguration changes, are crucial because they represent the automated fixes for security control deviations, right? So out of the total patch coverage, having 1148 dedicated to misconfigurations shows our commitment to addressing not just the software vulnerabilities, but also system hardening and security baseline compliance. Remember, any of these is an opportunity for a bad actor.
That's true, Marcus. Okay, now let's move on. Looking at uh, moving forward in our security intelligence coverage, looking at 2024 platform distribution for CVE coverage, we have a significant spread across three major operating systems. Windows account for more than 3,000 CVEs. Linux have our highest coverage of more than 12,000 CVEs, and Mac OS rounds it out to around more than 1,900 CVEs. Marcus, your views on this?
The high number of for Linux is particularly noteworthy here. At over 12,000 CVEs, it represents the vast majority of our coverage. This makes sense given that Linux's widespread use in server environments, development environments, its open source nature. It leads to obviously more reported vulnerabilities being publicly documented.
Yeah, I would like to add some more context to these numbers. While Windows shows 3000 plus CVEs, this does not mean it's less secure. Rather, it reflects the different ways vulnerabilities are reported and patched in proprietary versus open source systems. Our macOS coverage, it's around nearly 2000 CVs, is also significant.
That's true. That's right. Let's move on, please. All right. Now coming to this slide, our compliance coverage spans across multiple platforms. Now, if you observe, for Windows, we have covered critical security benchmarks, including stick standards for servers, that is 2019-22, and CIS benchmarks for Windows 11, 10, and server versions 2016, 19, and 22. Virendra, you want to express your thoughts on this? Virendra?
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Sorry, I missed it. So yeah, that's right. In database space, we are implemented comprehensive compliance checks for multiple database platforms. We covering MySQL 8, Oracle DB, Postgres, and multiple version of MS SQL. So this ensure organization can maintain secure database configuration across their infrastructure.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and let me add the Linux and Mac OS perspective to that as well. For Linux, we've incorporated the latest Ubuntu 23.04 benchmarks, revised, and Amazon Linux's 2023 general compliance standards. On the Mac OS front, we're covering Mac OS 15 general compliance. This multi platform approach really ensures our customers can maintain consistent security standards regardless of their operating environment or their operating system environment.
That's true, Marcus. Because one thing is, what's particularly important here is that we are not just looking at operating system compliance and isolations. By covering Windows databases, Linux, and Mac OS, we are offering a more holistic monitoring, compliance monitoring approach that addresses diverse, complex, multi-platform nature of today's modern IT environments. It's something that we've been consistently doing. All right. Now let us now try to understand the monthly vulnerability discovery trends for the year 2024. Virendra, can you let us know your observations on this chart? What's your view on this?
Yeah, this chart provides fascinating insight into vulnerability trends over the year. As you can see here, peak discoveries in the month of May, which stands out to be 5,000, approximately 5,000 vulnerabilities, making the highest point of the year. This could correlate with a major update or new threats emerging during this period. Notable declines, vulnerabilities counts are at their lowest in the month of September with 2,500 discoveries, followed by closely January. These dips could sign with the seasonal factors or industry cycles.
Okay.
Consistent activity apart from peak and low discovery rates in the month of March, June, July remain steady, average around 3,000 to 3,700 vulnerabilities. This consistency highlights the ongoing efforts to identify and address threats. Marcus, what's your take on these findings from security architects' perspective?
Yeah, so I think if we take a look at this from a security architect standpoint, these trends they tell us a lot, and they're critical information, right? The spike in May indicates that organizations really should prepare for high volume patching activities, resource allocation during these months. And additionally, the lower discovery counts in the months like September don't necessarily indicate that there are reduced threats, but it could mean fewer new vulnerabilities were identified due to other factors. It could be, any factors, but it also reinforces the need for that continuous monitoring, because you never know when that spike is going to happen.
That's the vital point. Continuous monitoring, continuous scanning. Now, that's the underlying point. This data underscores the importance of proactive vulnerability management year around, right? Now, Virendra, can you shed light on how organizations can stay ahead of these trends? What should organizations really do?
So organizations should leverage real-time threat intelligence to anticipate peaks in the discovery rates.
When I mean that, you also mean, I think, what we really mean is it's vulnerability intelligence, right? Which is which feed, or vulnerability intelligence feed, that
Yes,
they should
yes,
be
yes.
incorporating, right? Right.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, that's right. And also, along with that, a regular update patch management system and conduct penetration testing regardless of perceived low discovery periods. Also, allocate a resource dynamically to handle surges in vulnerabilities, like as we can see in the month of May.
That's important. Correct. Now, let's look at the severity distributions of vulnerabilities across the year. Now, Virendra, could you explain the key insights from this chart?
Sure. This chart is comprehensive, a representation of vulnerabilities categorized into four severity levels: low, medium, high, and critical. Most of the vulnerabilities are discovered in the with a medium severity. The chart clearly shows that majority vulnerabilities fall under medium category across all months. For example, May saw a peak of 2,252 medium vulnerabilities, the highest among all the categories. High severity vulnerabilities classified as shown here in the picture, and it's consistently throughout the year with peak in July, which is 1278, and November 1587. These indicates a month where potential risk needed highlighted attention. Although the count of critical vulnerabilities is lower than medium or high, they remain significant, with Jan and October showing spikes at 511 and 473 respectively. These months likely posed greater immediate threats to critical systems.
Okay. Okay.
Vulnerabilities in a low severity category are minimal across all the months, indicating a few lower risks being reported. Markets, what's your perspective on how organizations should intercept and act on this data?
Yeah, thanks, Virendra. So I think from my standpoint, this data serves as a roadmap, if you will, for prioritization. Medium vulnerabilities should be addressed systematically, because they still dominate and could still pose those threats if chained with others, and also they could potentially work their way higher as well. Those high and critical vulnerabilities, those demand the immediate attention and resource allocation, specifically during peak attack months like May, June, and November. While the low vulnerabilities, they're less urgent, but ignoring them altogether could leave minor gaps for attackers. So this chart really emphasizes the need for the layered defense strategy that targets vulnerabilities based on not just severity, but severity and urgency.
That's some very good insights. Can you share some of the best practices for managing these vulnerabilities across these severity ranges? Virendra, what's your take on that?
Yeah, starting with risk-based prioritization, that is one of the important critical to identify which assets are critical, and based on that, apply the risk and prioritize. Second thing is focus on patching critical and widely exploitable vulnerabilities on high priority. That is very critical, at least once in a month. Monitor trends. Other things are just try to monitor what's going on with the help of vulnerability intelligence, as we discussed earlier. Regular vulnerability scans, security patching at least a month are crucial for identifying weakness, ensuring your system stay protected against evolving threats.
So to just summarize what you said, Viren, one is we need to implement risk-based prioritization. We need to focus on patching critical and high severity vulnerabilities. We need to keep monitoring trends, and we need to keep conducting regular security audits. Now, that indeed definitely it brought in some clarity, and understanding the severity distribution of vulnerabilities is a must to build a robust plan to mitigate and reduce them. That's kind of very important about that. All right. Now, moving into this, as we see, moving into the next slide, we see in this graph a monthly breakdown of data trends across different categories. Virendra, can you explain the categories and the significance?
Sure. The horizontal axis represent ranges from 0 to zero point 0.9, 1 to 1.9, etc. These likely indicate specific performance metrics or a group classifications. Meanwhile, the bars for each range are color coded by month, as shown in the legend on the right hand side of the vertical axis represent the values or counts for each category. It's clear that the highest peak occur in the 2 to 2.9 range. Marcus, what's your interpretation of monthly trends here?
Yeah, so taking a look at that 2 to 2.9 range, we're seeing consistently high values throughout the year. For example, January 2024 and December 2024 have the tallest bars, each of these exceeding 1,500. This is going to suggest that these months had the most significant activity or results. And interestingly, there's a dip in July, which is much lower compared to surrounding months. Now, that dip could indicate a seasonal slowdown, operational changes, or other external factors affecting performance in July, but it would be worth correlating this data with other metrics to pinpoint the cause. But one thing I'll point out real quick before I have a question here is, why do attacks or security incidents or breaches always happen on weekends and holidays? It's because that's when attackers know that there is less ability to respond from these organizations. So with that, Virendra, I noticed that the 0 to 0.9 range has those smaller values. What insights can we draw from that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you are right. Even though organizations on festival mode, but threat actors are most active during that period, as you mentioned. So the low values in 0 to zero point 0.9 range across all months indicates minimal activity or results for the category. This could imply it's either niche category or one with a less relevance in this context. Marcus, do you think the trend aligned with the typical expectations?
Yeah, Virendra, if this range represents lower performance metrics or less impactful results, it is consistent with its consistency with the low values does make sense. However, we really should explore some months like March and October that still show slight increases. These could be minor efforts or shifts affecting the range. Any deviation, no matter how small, can provide valuable insights. And if we highlight the 3 to 3.9 range, um, though its values are moderate, it demonstrates a steady pattern across months. This stability might indicate a controlled or consistent output. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. Consistency is key here, and it might reflect effective management or predictable outcome for this range.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I mean, the chart gives us a lot to think about, especially in those peaks in the 2 to 2.9 and the steadiness that occurs in the 3 to 3.9 range.
That's true. Right. Now let's take our attention to this chart, which is actually talking about. Think, yeah, we will talk about the slide. This is slide 13, and we will talk about the top affected vendors and products. Right. Now, here, this chart highlights the most affected CVEs, that is, common vulnerabilities and exposures. The vertical axis represents the number of CVEs, and the horizontal list the vendors and products. Virendra, what stands out to you on this chart?
The most obvious insight here is the dominance of Linux at the top, with a massive 2315 CVs reported. This is almost double that of Microsoft, which ranks second at 1205. Apple is third with the 850 CVs, followed by Adobe with 741. The remaining vendors like Google, Oracle, and other show significant drop in CV count. Marcus, what do you take on this? Linux leading this list.
Um, yeah, so I think, oh my goodness. Um, I think what jumps out at me is the contrast between the ranges. You're seeing this jumping way out, and the data is reflecting a pattern of what's going on here. So, um, at more than double that of Microsoft, you're really looking at that. But I think the other thing that points out from Linux is going to be that you're seeing the data reflecting a pattern.
Virendra, views on that?
Yeah, I believe it's largely due to growing adoption of their products. Apple's ecosystem, including macOS and iOS, is increasingly targeted as its user base is being expanded. Adobe, with its creative tools like Acrobat, Photoshop, etc., is another high value target, especially in enterprise environment. Marcus, what can vendors like Tenda or Samsung learn from this?
Yeah, I think vendors like Tenon and Samsung, while they're lower on the list, with those CVEs of 172, 182 respectively, they can't become complacent. Their lower numbers could reflect limited reporting rather than actual security, and they should invest in security audits and encourage the responsible disclosure from researchers. Enterprises should focus on the security posture of vendors, not just CVE counts. Vendors with more CVEs, like Linux and Microsoft, may also have more robust patching mechanisms. For smaller vendors, ensuring the transparency and timely updates is crucial. Virendra, any closing advice for organizations managing these products from these vendors?
Absolutely. Organization need to adopt multi-layer security approach, regular updates, strong access controls, vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, etc. For vendors like Linux, integrating automated patch management tools can significantly mitigate risk. Marcus, any final words?
Yeah, just I think just that understanding CVEs is essential, but it's only part of the picture. Security is a shared responsibility between the vendors, the users, and those that own their security responsibility to begin with.
Right, that's true. Now, talking about the top 10 affected operating system, it's the chart before us is both intriguing and critical for IT and security professionals as such. Virendra, can you walk us through the key takeaways from this data?
Sure. Looking at the chart, the Linux kernel tops the list with staggering 2,300 CVs, which is significantly higher than the second ranked macOS, which is 749 CVs. Android comes third with 510 CVs, which is interesting is how various version of Windows like Windows 10, 11, and various other versions occupy the mid-range with CVs counts between 378 to 478, 438. Sorry, Marcus, what do you think about Linux leading this list, such wide margin?
Yeah, so I think the dominance of Linux here, of the Linux kernel, isn't surprising. Linux powers a ton of systems, countless systems, from servers, embedded devices, IoTs, but the open source nature really ensures the transparency and vulnerability in reporting. However, this high number doesn't imply insecurity. It can also reflect just a robust community of folks actively finding and addressing issues. On the other hand, Mac OS and Android's positioning likely reflects their consumer focus and high adoption. Ringer, what do you think about Windows?
Yeah, Windows is having multiple entries suggest that vulnerabilities are spread across its various versions and server variants. It shows Microsoft consistent effort to isolate vulnerabilities to a specific version rather than universal impacts. The high count for macOS and Androids are a reminder for the widespread use. macOS in enterprise environment and Android on billions of devices globally. Enterprises must prioritize endpoint security, enforce strict upgrade policies, and ensure secure configuration of for these systems. Marcus, what do you think these numbers reflect vendor transparency as much as they do actual risk?
Yeah, CVE counts partially reflect transparency and proactive reporting. Vendors like Microsoft and Linux often have well documented CVE tracking systems, but organizations shouldn't rely on CVE counts alone. The severity of the vulnerabilities and their patch availability are always critical. And enterprises should focus on prioritizing the patches based on the vulnerability severity and exploitability. That's the key factor. Some systems, for systems like some of these Linux, kernel, and Android, automation and patch deployment is going to be the key. Rindra, what advice do you have? Would you give these enterprises managing such diverse environments?
My advice is to adopt a centralized vulnerability management platform. This allows organization to monitor, address vulnerabilities across all operating systems in their environments effectively. Cross-platform tools that prioritize critical vulnerabilities, automate patching process can significantly improve security.
That's the point. We as rightly said, Virendra, we need an automated patching process and a tool and a centralized vulnerability management platform. That's the secret. Okay, let's move to the next slide, wherein we talk we in this segment, wherein we talk about top 10 affected applications. Now, these applications are affected applications by CV. You are able to see are based on data here, right? Virendra, could you start by giving us an overview? What stands out for you in this chart?
So, looking at this chart, standouts clearly Adobe Experience Manager with 300 plus vulnerabilities, making it most affected application in this list for this year. It's followed by Google, which is 256 CVs, as we know that many users, Google Chrome is being used by many users. Next, GitLab with 133 CVs occupied the third spot, and remaining applications like SQL, MySQL, Firefox, etc. Marcus, what do you think about Adobe Experience Manager topping this list?
So I don't use Adobe Experience Manager, but I can tell you that I have had so many Chrome updates, and frequently right before presentations, as I'm sure many of you have. But I think Adobe Experience Manager's high count can really be attributed to its popularity in managing the enterprise content, making it a prime target for attackers. These vulnerabilities often stem from its integration capabilities and the complex environment that it does operate in. Chrome's position at number two reflects its extensive feature set and large user base. SQL Server versions 2016, 2017, and 2019 are appearing here, just likely reflect Microsoft's thorough vulnerability reporting process. However, their relatively low CVE count, 64 to 65, suggests that Microsoft has managed these versions effectively. Virendra, do you think this chart can suggest certain types of applications are inherently riskier?
Yes, when I saw the experience Adobe Experience managers leading, I got shocked. Okay, looks like threat actors are targeting more different kinds of users, and along with that, Chrome, which are these two are widely used and also frequently updated, naturally appear to have higher vulnerability counts. But as Marcus mentioned earlier, high CV count can indicate proactive reporting rather than insecurity. On the other hand, applications like MySQL, GitLab, Firefox, while not high, still require a consistent patching and monitoring. Marcus, what do you think enterprise should concern about these numbers?
Yeah, thanks. These numbers really highlight the need for enterprises to monitor and patch vulnerabilities in these applications proactively. For Adobe Experience Manager and Chrome, automated patching should be a priority. For open source applications like GitLab and MySQL, enterprises should really keep track of community advisories. Now, organizations should also implement a layered defense strategy. We've chatted about that earlier today. This includes regular vulnerability scanning, timely application of patches, and configuring those applications securely. Um, for widely used software like Chrome, enforcing secure browser policies is critical. Now, I do have one more question, but I'm going to have to exit the webinar. I appreciate everyone's attendance. I'm going to turn it back over to Rakesh and Virendra here, because I have a previously scheduled appointment. But Virendra, do you have any final recommendations here?
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for the time. So my recommendation should be to prioritize application based on their criticality to business operations. Applications like Adobe Experience Manager and Chrome, which are central to workflows, should be at the top of patching schedule. Additionally, organization must educate users on secure research practices, especially for browsers and collaborative tools like GitLab.
All right. So I think Marcus is left out because he has a scheduled medical appointment. So we will continue this webinar. All right. Okay, now let's move to the next slide, Virendra, wherein we will be talking about the top 10 hardware based on by CVEs, based on the chart displayed here. Virendra, would you like to tell us your observations? What do you see from this? What do you infer from this chart?
Yeah, what stands out me is that Qualcomm and Tenda tied for the top spot with 170 CVs each. These are followed by uh, closely followed by Totolink at 165 CVs and D-Link at 144 CVs. The rest of this list includes MediaTek, Unisoc, and Redtech, which lower counts ranging from 36 to 47. It's interesting to note that brands like Samsung and Cisco, which are major industry players, have relatively fewer CVs at 36 each.
Right. Virendra, do you think this indicates better security patches practices by Samsung and Cisco?
That's a valid point. Samsung and Cisco lower counts might suggest a stronger security measure, or perhaps a narrower focus on vulnerability reporting in certain product lines. However, it's also worth noting that brands like Qualcomm and Tenda, which cater to diverse hardware ecosystem, may inherently have more exposure.
Okay, okay. So, what do you think about? So, Virendra, what do you think about the prominence of network-related, hardware like TotoLink and D-Link that we see in this list?
The high CV count for these network-focused hardware brands underline the importance of security. Sorry, importance of security in connected devices. Since these devices are gateway to networks, these are frequently targeted for attackers. The high vulnerability numbers also pinpoint to need for a better firmware management and patching mechanism.
Okay, so Virendra, do you think that these high numbers impact user trust in these brands? Does it really matter? What's your view on that?
When users see high vulnerability counts, it can shake their confidence in a brand, especially if updates and patches are not promptly rolled out. However, argue that high CV count are not always bad. They can indicate proactive vulnerability disclosure.
All right, all right, all right. So, Virendra, how can users and enterprise mitigate these risks for such hardware?
Users and enterprise can mitigate these risks by ensuring firmware is regularly updated, by disabling unused features in their hardware. For enterprise, implementing network segmentation, monitoring for unusual traffic from device like routers and access points is essential.
So, what about vendors? What should brands like Qualcomm and Tenda focus on to reduce these numbers?
Vendors need to adapt a VM first approach. This includes secure VM practices, better vulnerability disclosure policies, and ensure long term firmware support for their device. Collaborating with company can also help identifying addressing these vulnerabilities. Also, these vendors also invest in secure development of firmwares. That's also one of the critical aspect which many vendor miss out.
That's interesting. So what do you think? So, what should be the approach? What do you think on that? Is there
Both
anything else that we need to do? Yeah.
Yes. Both vendors and users to treat hardware vulnerabilities with the same seriousness as software vulnerabilities. Hardware often serves as a foundation for organization infrastructure. So any compromise can have a wide-reaching impacts.
That's a good point that you mentioned here. Okay, now let us look at the top 10 critical vulnerabilities as highlighted here. Now, each of the CVEs have significant impacts. Now, we will discuss their implications and potential mitigation strategies. So, how do we get started on this, Virendra?
Looking at the list, what I immediately stand out is the severity of these vulnerabilities. Most of them have a CVSS score of 9.8 or even the maximum score of 10, which means they are highly critical. For instance, CV 2024-3094 involving XJet utils has a CVSS score of 10. It allows attackers to interpret and modify data interactions.
Okay, so what's your take on these vulnerabilities, like this that is affecting the very foundational libraries like executils? Can you help us understand that?
Vulnerabilities in libraries like exadutils are particularly concerning because they can affect a wide range of software linked to them. XGUtils is a library, third-party library, so which is used by many applications. And these kind of issues underscore the importance of dependency management and regular updates. The list also includes well-known products like Microsoft Exchange Server, Fortinet 40 OS.
So how do you see these vulnerabilities impacting the organizations?
Vulnerabilities like 2024 21410 for Microsoft Exchange Server and CV 2023 42789 for Fortinet 40 OS are particularly dangerous because they target critical infrastructure exploits. Exploit in these system can lead to privilege escalation, unauthorized access, and even remote code execution.
So do you think these organizations need to be prepared to handle such high stake vulnerabilities?
Yes, of course. Many organizations are improving their remediation capabilities, but the reality is that preparedness varies widely. For production products like Microsoft Outlook, which is listed here as a CV 2024 21413, the ability to gain high privileges, including read, write, delete functionalities, can be devastating consequences.
So what do you recommend as immediate steps, when somebody finds such critical vulnerability or when it is disclosed? What are the immediate steps that one should take?
So the first step is always to apply the patches. First, detect the vulnerabilities. What are the vulnerabilities are present? Also, particularly, I suggest if anything is publicly facing. So that is one of the critical things which they need to patch first. After that, they need to apply other patches, other applications as well. If a patch is not available, organization should look into workaround or mitigations like restricting uh, 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 access control or disabling the features or there are various. Sometimes vendors provide what are the work on can be applied when there are no patches for some time. And also there are security companies which provide digital vaccines or which we call it as virtual patching. They provide it can be IDS IPS signatures which can help to block such a attacks. But at the end, best way to mitigate these kind of vulnerabilities, once the patch is available, always apply the patches.
All right. So what role do you think is the awareness and training play in mitigating such vulnerability risks?
Awareness and training, this is one of the important critical aspect because humans are the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain. So it's very critical to train everybody in the organization. For example, vulnerabilities in Jenkins, as seen in CV 2024-23897, could mitigate by ensuring proper file permission and limiting access to sensitive systems.
So what are you any thoughts on how industries and should prioritize vulnerabilities when multiple critical CVEs are reported?
Yeah, priority should be depend on a factors like exploitability of vulnerability, the criticality of the affected system, is that system publicly exposed, what is the impact. So these are the few aspects. Tools like CVS scores helpful, but organization also should consider specific context of their environment. For instance, a vulnerability like CV 2024 3400 in Palo Alto Pan OS, which allows execution of arbitrary code with root privileges, should be treated as immediate threat for organization using these firewalls.
So you think automation is the answer?
Yeah, automate. vulnerability management tools can help organization quickly identify affected systems. So before we apply the patch, we need to identify. So that's where automated vulnerability management will come into picture. Next is assess the risk level. Even certain cases, we can automate deploying patches or configuration in an automatic way. But
Hmm.
automation is just one part of the solution as we
Okay.
can
So,
conclude.
so what's your advice to organizations looking to stay ahead of this?
My suggestion would be to invest in comprehensive vulnerability management program. This includes regular patching, robust monitoring, strong culture of security awareness. Also, there should be a proper visibility across organization about vulnerabilities. Uh, yeah, collaborate along with these things, collaborating with cybersecurity community to stay informed about emerging vulnerabilities also crucial.
That's right, Virendra. Okay, now talking about, we are going to explore some of the most pressing zero-day vulnerabilities affecting popular software like Chrome, iOS, and Windows. Can you highlight the key trends from this chart, Virendra?
What stands out is the dominance of memory corruption issues, which appear in products like Google Chrome, Apple, WebKit. These can potentially allow attackers to execute malicious code or crash applications.
So what's your view on why memory corruption continues to be such a persistent issue in software? Why do you, because this is what we see there, memory
Yeah,
corruption. Yeah.
memory corruption is always there from very long time, like stack buffer overflow, etc. So all those are related to mostly related to languages such as C, C++, etc. It's an area where attackers thrive because even a small oversight can lead to a significant exploits. A simple stack overflow can lead to a complete compromise of the system just by executing the code. So in this case, vulnerabilities like CV 2024-4671, which involve security bypass in Google Chrome with CVSS score 9.6, are particularly critical.
So what should organizations do to handle such high severity cases?
In this kind of high severity cases, immediate action is crucial. If it is a browser or any application which is not very much depending on um, depending it's not very much depending on the organization, so we should try to automate and try to patch if there is if the CVS score is above 9 or 9.8, it can we can use automated patching system.
So how do you see the mobile platforms handling these vulnerabilities?
For example, Apple iOS has vulnerabilities like 2024, 29296, and 23225, both related to memory corruption with a CVSS score of 7.8. So, along with that, Android also has its share, such as 2024. CV 2024 29748, which allows privilege escalation. These vulnerabilities emphasize the importance of updating mobile devices regularly.
So should you think that there is an end user awareness plays a role here, Virendra?
Yes, end users often delay users, specifically mobile users. If we talk about many times, they don't update over months as well. So, which leaves them exposed to these vulnerabilities. Organization should encourage prompt updates, especially for critical zero-day patches. Google Chrome appears multiple times in this list.
So Virendra, what do you think? Browsers are a frequent target?
Yes, of course. As we discussed earlier, uh, uh, many applications are SaaS based nowadays, and many people are using those SaaS based application using browsers. So browsers are highly critical now, and most of our work is being done on the browsers, making it attractive for the browsers, making that attractive for the threat actors. Vulnerabilities like 2024 4947 and 5274 in Google Chrome can lead to remote code execution, allowing attackers to compromise user systems simply by visiting a malicious website.
So, what are your thoughts on Windows appearing in the list with privilege escalation vulnerabilities like 3005551? What's
Yeah,
your thought on this?
as we see, still Microsoft Windows is a dominant OS in the entire world. So I think it the share. So it's very critical component. So
Okay.
Windows is very critical for any enterprises as environment. So attackers often focus on exploiting these things because the affect area or the impact is high or broad, I can say, instead of high, because many users are there who use Windows. So on this Microsoft Windows, privilege escalation vulnerabilities are particularly dangerous as they allow attacker to gain unauthorized access to sensitive resource. The
So you
organization should combine timely patching with a robust monitoring.
all right? Now let us try to understand um, more about the zero-day coverage that we have. Some of the pressing zero-day vulnerabilities affecting popular software like Chrome and iOS and Windows. Virendra, can you highlight the key trends from this chart?
Sure, Rakesh. What stands out in the dominance of memory corruption issues, which appears in products like Google Chrome and Apple WebKit. These vulnerabilities can potentially allow attackers to execute malicious code or crashed application.
So, what's your view on why is memory corruption, is continuing to be such a persistent issue in software? What could be the primary reason behind
Memory corruption is there for quite some time now. Stack overflows or all the buffer overflow things leads to memory corruption.
it? Okay.
Uh, Memory corruption remains a challenge because of the complexity of managing memory in modern software, especially like C, C++. It's an area where attackers thrive because even a small oversight can lead to significant exploits.
Okay.
Vulnerabilities like CV 2024 4671, which involves bypass in Google Chrome with CVSS for 9.6, are particularly very critical.
So, what do you think? How should organizations handle such high severity cases?
In high severity cases like CV 2024 4671 needs immediate attention. Organization should monitor vendor updates closely, apply patches as soon as they are released. For zero-day vulnerabilities, isolating the affected system, enabling the additional monitoring for suspicious activity can help mitigate potential damage.
All right. So, how do you see mobile platforms handling these vulnerabilities?
For example, Apple iOS has vulnerabilities like CV 2024 23296 and 23225, both related to memory corruption with a CSS score of 7.8. Android also has its share, such as CV 2024 29748, which allows privilege escalation. These vulnerabilities emphasize the importance of updating mobile device regularly.
That's very true. Updating your mobile devices with the latest software is very much important. So, use end user awareness plays a role here, right, Virendra?
Yes, yes. Particularly if we talk about mobile devices, many times, most of the time, mobile users are non-organization users or personal, basically personal mobiles, I can say, where many times they don't know they need to update the software. That kind of education is missing, and also due to also many times what happens is vendor also takes iOS or Android vendors also take some time to roll out certain security patches. Normally they
Okay.
release on a quarterly basis, so which can leave them exposed to these vulnerabilities. Organization should encourage even personal users should make sure they as soon as the update is available, they should patch it, especially for critical zero-day vulnerabilities like Google Chrome, etc.
Mm. So, why do you think browsers are a frequent target?
As we discussed in earlier, browsers now most of the applications are accessed by a browser because many times many applications are SaaS based now. Many majority of the desktop applications are converted into a SaaS based applications, and those can be accessed via browsers. So
Mm.
that's one reason where threat actors see that as a major impact whenever they try to exploit. So that's one reason where they try to exploit like vulnerabilities like CV 2024, 4947, and 5274 in Google Chrome, which can lead to a remote code execution, allowing attackers to compromise user systems simply by visiting malicious websites or just by clicking on a malicious link.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts, on Windows appearing in this list with the privilege escalation vulnerabilities like 30051? What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
it?
because Windows, it's always a high target from the very start. Like, the major reason behind is Windows platforms is used still the market leader in when we take it up with respect to operating system. So attacker see that also as quite an impact when they try to exploit it, and there are personal users, enterprise users, all kinds of users who use uh, Windows. So in case of privilege escalations, vulnerabilities are particularly dangerous as they allow attackers to gain unauthorized access to sensitive resources. Organizations should combine timely patching with robust monitoring for anomalies.
So, would you recommend any specific tools for practices for managing zero-day risks?
Regular security audits, vulnerability intelligence, penetration testing, discover the vulnerabilities as well. Internal penetration testing, if we consider the enterprise aspect, internal penetration, plus even external penetration testing, those will allow organization to detect vulnerabilities in their application before threat actors get hold of it.
Mm. Okay. So, what are you? How do you stay ahead of these zero-day threats?
Continuous vigilance is the key. Organization should invest in patch management, maintain a strong vendor relationship for timely updates, even third party applications, third party libraries. Those also need to be tracked, need to be make sure all the vulnerable components are fixed. Even educating employees is very critical because humans are the weakest link in the entire cybersecurity chain. So educating employees can strengthen the complete organization, and it's kind of a must nowadays because the way the phishing attacks or attack vectors are evolving majorly. They are targeting as organizations are increasing their uh, strengthening their infrastructure, so which leaves threat actors leave with the humans or users. So we we need to make sure everybody understands security and what kind of phishings are being used by the threat actors. That will help
That's
strengthen complete
that's very much.
organization security.
I agree on that because continuous vigilance, as you said, is very much important, and more importantly, everyone in the company should be aware about the phishing attempts and other attack vectors, and also, as you rightly said, we need to keep, vendor updates is very much important, including patch management, which will add that extra sense of that will bring that extra layer of security to the security posture, right? So,
Yes, yes.
okay, talking about, sorry, now we are moving into one more critical area wherein we will look at the top 10 misconfigurations, right? Misconfigurations remain one of the leading causes of vulnerabilities. And today we will look at some of the key examples. Virendra, can you help us understand why Windows platforms are dominating this list?
Yeah, of course. As we discussed, Windows platforms are very everywhere in the enterprise environment. Still, Windows share in the marketplace is 80-90%. Still, it dominates majority of the OS, making them a common target. For example, CC 97142-4 and 98055-7 highlights misconfiguration in Windows 11 and Windows Server 2022 related to a smart screen warning. These warnings are critical for protecting users from potentially harmful downloads or websites.
Okay, so what's your take on this? What's your take? What's your take on the importance of these smart screen configurations? Why are they so important?
Smart screen is a vital layer of defense, and disabling or misconfiguring it has seen in the multiple entries on this list. Reduces the protection against phishing attack, phishing, or malware attack. Can often keep these settings for convenience, but can backfire.
Okay, so what about Linux misconfigurations? We do have CCE 95633 and CCE 95067. So, what's your views on that?
These Linux misconfiguration focus on SSS access. One allows unlimited authentication attempts. It's like brute forcing. It allows brute forcing attacks where if the system is normally all Linux systems have 422 open, and if this is not configured properly, uh, threat actor can brute force continuously, and they will be able to crack the credentials.
So, how
While
do you? Hmm.
yeah,
Go ahead.
please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the reason we should make sure that we configure these configurations properly.
Hmm. So, how do you mitigate such issues?
Uh, it's as a such enabling rate limiting, like in a span of 1 minute, how many failed attempts are allowed. If it exceeds that, it then you add delay in the next attempt. So that will help block various repeated failed login attempts. Uh, so this is one way to secure SSH,
Okay.
and also limiting access to specific users or groups further reduces the attack surface.
Okay. So, what about repeated mention of we seems to be having this smart screen managing smart screen across various Windows versions. Why do we have this repeated mention?
That's a recurring theme here. Misconfigurations like CC 43114.8 for Windows 10 and 448.845 for Windows 2016 highlight how organization either disable or incorrectly configure smart screen. This often happens due to compatibility issue or user complaints. Our organization must be convinced against security risk and use group policy to enforce consistent configurations.
So what about CCE 1000944 and 1000942, which mentions about NTLM audit, traffic auditing, which is nothing but new technology land manager. So can you help us understand this?
Yeah, NTLM traffic is often a target for attackers to perform pass the hash or relay attacks. Auditing such a traffic, as mentioned in 1000942, for detecting unauthorized use and mitigating these threats.
So any advice on reducing the reliance of this new technology land manager, which is NTLM in enterprise environments?
I feel the best approach is to phase out NTLM in favor of more secure protocols like Kerberos, additionally enforcing strong password policies, enabling SMB signing can mitigate these kinds of risks.
Okay, do you see any patterns in in these misconfigurations that organizations need to address?
A common pattern, what we see is a lack of attention to default configurations. Normally, organization don't tweak the configuration. Sometimes even vendors keep the configuration uh, not secure by default. They or most of the vendor choose convenience over secure. So organization or keep that way. In that case, those configuration lead to a lot of problems. Misconfiguration are often stem from insufficient training or overemphasis on operational speed. Implementing configuration baselines, regular audits, and automations can significantly reduce such issues.
So implementing configuration baselines, regular audits, and automated tools, right? Automated VM tools
Mm,
can reduce these
mm.
issues, right, Virendra, on this?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
One of the key takeaway here is that misconfigurations are avoidable with proper planning and governance. Regular audits, adapting to security baselines, leveraging automations can prevent most of these issues. Remember, it's not just about applying the patches, but also about configuring systems securely from the start.
It's very important. We need to secure these configurations or these systems, right from the start. Along matter a lot. All right. So let's move to the next thing. Now we are focusing here on the vulnerability prediction for 2025. And this prediction gives us a valuable outlook into the evolving vulnerability landscape. Virendra, can you help us understand the key aspects of this chart?
What we see here is a trend line representing observed vulnerabilities from 2012 up to 2024, along with the forecast for 2025. The red line shows historical data. The green line represents a one step ahead forecast. And shaded blue region indicates the confidence interval for prediction. There are clear spike around 2016 and under significant rise in 2024.
So, what do you think is driving these surges? You see a clear spike and from 16 to 24, right? 2016.
Ye-
What?
Yes, yeah, these surges are likely driven by a rapid adoption of new technology, increased attack surface, and the discovery of vulnerabilities. Sometime if vulnerabilities discovered in the third-party libraries, and if that third-party library being used by hundreds of vendors, and in that case, the sudden jump in the vulnerabilities can the vulnerabilities in those all those products used by the third party vulnerabilities like libcurl can affect that is one angle we can see where sudden spike is possible. uh, for example, 2024 spike could be attributed to attackers exploiting critical vulnerabilities in widely used platforms.
So Virendra, this do you think this prediction will influence organizations' security strategies in 2025?
Yes, this prediction highlights the need for the organization to be proactively rather than reactive. They need to invest in a continuous vulnerability management and monitoring. The forecasted increase in vulnerabilities underscore the importance of keeping software and systems updated.
So, how do you think organizations should prioritize their remediation efforts based on such predictions?
Prioritization should be based on the risk. Organization should focus on critical vulnerabilities with high exploitability score first, and also they need to see what kind of exploits are available publicly which can be used by the threat actors, and also they need to check what are the critical application used in the organization. So they have to prioritize the risk. They should also prepare for peak periods like those shown in the forecast.
So, do you think automation can help us mitigate these challenges?
Yes, of course. Automation can play a significant role in real-time threat detection and automated patch management. There is also a need to establish a stricter compliance regulation, and must adopt superior vulnerability detection suites like escape report to stay ahead of the curve by adopting zero trust security model, conducting a regular security assessment, and forecasting a culture of cybersecurity awareness. The
Okay.
vulnerability landscape is becoming more challenging, but the right strategies and the right tools and the right training to the employees, organization can stay resilient.
That's true. That's very true. All right. Now we have discussed issues related to security risks, and it was a very exhaustive discussion. Now, I want you to know about the platform that will help us fix them, right? SanerNow 6.3.1 CVM platform is designed to scan, detect, normalize, prioritize, and patch millions of vulnerabilities. Now, let's dive deeper into this platform. Virendra, can you elaborate on the core functionalities of this platform?
SanerNow 6.3.1 is fully automated end-to-end vulnerability management platform. Its capabilities are impressive. It scans the entire IT infrastructure in just 5 minutes and provides a continuous risk management without service disruption. Also, it gives a overall visibility of the organization on vulnerabilities, what kind of vulnerabilities are there, how also it helps us prioritize what are the things which uh, enterprise or user should prioritize. It will help. This unified console is a game changer. As for me, as it goes beyond just CVs, it also identifies IP asset, security control division, missing patches, posture anomalies, even endpoint management. There are a number of, if you see, if I can say, one tool to manage complete vulnerability and endpoint security. Uh, this platform can be used.
Okay, great. So that's amazing because this is one platform that can scan the entire IT infrastructure in 5 minutes, and it has got uh, around approximately 7 modules in one integrated platform. So you don't need any additional software or hardware to for your vulnerability management initiatives. So Virendra, how does the speed and breadth of this coverage benefit organizations in some real life scenarios?
Speed is a critical in cybersecurity.
Right.
The ability to scan and detect vulnerabilities in 5 minutes allow the organization to stay one step ahead of attackers. If we take previous generation vulnerability management platforms, it takes weeks to scan the entire organizations and get the report done. Again, uh, patching those vulnerabilities takes again another a month or so. So that will help. So these are the plus. Plus, having this kind of comprehensive security intelligence library with over a 2 lakh vulnerabilities checks ensures organization can address a wide range of risks.
Okay. Okay.
Just to add just to add to it, the absence of additional software or plugins simplifies deployment and reduces operational complexity. It ensures organizations can start managing vulnerabilities right away without worrying about com- compatibility issues. Organization should integrate SanerNow 631 into the security operation center workflows. The platform's prioritization and risk scoring features align perfectly with the risk-based approach, ensure, ensuring teams focus on most critical vulnerabilities first.
Mm.
Proactively is a key aspect here. Sena now enables organizations to stay ahead by continuously monitoring and addressing vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. The combination of speed, accuracy, quality, and comprehensive coverage makes this platform a must.
That's well said, Virendra. So it's SanerNow 6.3.1, it's a very powerful solution, and that ensures, and empowers organizations to manage vulnerability effectively and efficiently. Right. Thanks, Virendra. Now let's now open the floor to questions. Let's wait for some questions. All right, I don't think we have any. Okay. Right. So we are closing here. So we would encourage you to visit the website www.secpod.com and try out Sailor Now for free. You can download it and try its full feature demo version, and you can actually see the results. In case you have more inquiries, if you would like to know more about the report, or you want to just talk to us about, or just curious about to know more about Sailor Now, please do email us at info@secpod.com. We would be glad to answer all your questions and queries. And thank you all once again for attending this webinar. It was really a pleasure presenting it to you. Thank you, Virendra.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rakesh.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
See, see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah.